Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in today. Before we get started, I want to just invite you to join us on our journey and go ahead and subscribe to the channel and help us promote tree conservation and tree education by sharing the channel with others. More people we can get involved, the better. So would love it if you would subscribe and help us get the word out about tree conservation. Today, we're going to be talking and continuing our conversation around our fruit trees, specifically some of our apple trees that we have. So published a video a little while back on the first series of our kind of apple tree highlight videos, and so that's out there if you want to check that out. There's also some great content in that video about apple trees in general, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about specific apple tree care in this video. I just want to highlight another variety that we happen to have on our property, and this particular variety is called the Pixie Crunch. And so it is early September, and so you can see this tree is actually in full bloom, in full blossom, has tons of apples on it, and we are getting ready to harvest those. And so just another great option for you to consider is, again, the Pixie Crunch. And so I want to get into some details on this particular tree and talk about that so we can get you some information on this variety. So this is hardiness zones 5 through 8. It gets to be 22 to 25 feet tall. Spacing on this, so you can see from our other apple trees here, we've got about 22 feet in between each of them, 20 to 22. And so that's what's recommended here. You want to have at least 10 to 20, but we went ahead and just went on the kind of the wider end of that. So make sure that our trees have plenty of space in between them as they're growing. And so this one, no different. You want to have plenty of space. These trees need 6 to 8 hours of full sun a day, and this tree is also going to require a pollinator. So something to keep in mind if you're thinking about planting this tree, it will require a pollinator. There's a number of different trees that you can do or utilize to pollinate. We have, if you watch the other video, we have 4 different apple tree varieties here, and they all come ripe at different times of the year. That was intentional. And so we have pollinators, and we have kind of successive months of fruit production, which we planned out to do that, to make sure that we had an ability to not only harvest the apples when we wanted to, but we weren't just kind of overwhelmed with fruit on all of them. And so there's a number of different options out there for apple trees, kind of unlimited really in terms of the number of apple trees that are out there. And so I just want to highlight this particular tree, again, Pixie Crunch. So when we think about this, it gets compared a lot to the Honeycrisp, but when it comes to that, this one is much easier to grow. It's actually crispier, and it actually is, in a lot of people's eyes, more flavorful. So if you're thinking about the common ones you see in the stores, Honeycrisp is one of those. This would be very comparable to that, except easier to grow, easier to maintain, and a lot of people think it's more flavorful. Definitely crispier than the Honeycrisp. And so matures in late August, as I mentioned, so we're first week in September here. So these apples have been mature for a few days. I just had to get out here and get the video on this before we harvest them. But we're getting ready to harvest. This has a pretty good crop on it. It will start producing fruit on the 3rd year if all goes well, and kind of get better after that each year. So one of the other things that is notable about this tree is it handles frost better than some other varieties of apple trees. So that's something to consider depending on where you're at, you know, what time of year the frost comes in your geographical area. This tree seems to do better with that. So that's one benefit of this tree. I mentioned the flavor. Again, very, very crisp, very juicy. Some people like this particular variety because it doesn't require as much sugar when you are baking with it. So because it is so sweet, because it is so flavorful, it requires less added sugar than some of the other apple varieties that are out there. So something to keep in mind there if you're a baker. or if you like to utilize your apples for baking or other things in the kitchen. You'll notice on this tree, so we do have a little bit of cedar rust going on. This tree, like most apple trees, susceptible to cedar rust. One thing that's interesting about this tree though is it was bred to be immune to apple scab. So it's immune to apple scab, it's resistant to fire blight, but it does have some susceptibility to the cedar rust. And so if you're not familiar with cedar rust, that is a fungal infection. And so as long as you're keeping up with your fungicide, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And as you can see, we are doing okay with keeping up on it. You know, we don't have tons of it on this tree, and it hasn't really affected the number of apples or the quality or bounty of apples that are on this tree, you might say. So those are some things to consider on this one. And so this tree in general will get to be fairly good size, like I said, 22 to 25 feet tall. And some of the pollinators you might consider, you could consider having a Honeycrisp as a pollinator. We actually have, again, 3 different varieties beside it. One of them is a Sundance. That is one that they recommend. This is the Sundance that they recommend as a pollinator. So this one, pretty good sized tree, and we'll be looking to harvest the fruit from this one next month. So kind of coming down. If you saw the other video, you noticed that we have successive months. Like I said, this one is July. This is the pristine. So there's a video out there if you want to get a deeper dive on that. This one, of course, is the one we're highlighting today, the Pixie Crunch. And then we come over here, we've got our Harrelson. This was the one that I mentioned in the other video that we had tons of fruit on it last year. It was like falling over on its own weight in terms of the amount of fruit that we had on it this year, or last year, excuse me. This year, we don't have any fruit from it. It's not uncommon to have trees fruit every other year. So we'll look for fruit on that one next year. And then of course, as I mentioned, we have our Sundance here that we're going to be harvesting in about a month. So yeah, some great options. If you're looking at fruit trees, if you're looking at adding a tree to your yard or to your acreage, this is a great one. Kids love this type of fruit because it tastes very akin to some of the ones you're going to get in the stores. It's again, very sweet, very, very crunchy. And I do have an example here that I picked kind of close up. So it doesn't get too big, it's not real tiny, kind of that perfect medium size, and might just be a great option for you. You know, might be one of those things where you take a bite of one and there's no going back. In fact, it wins a lot of taste test competitions. So this might be your next apple tree, who knows. But as always, I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Please consider, like I mentioned earlier, subscribing to the channel and sharing the channel with others so we can get more people involved with tree education and most importantly, tree conservation. So have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.